So when is it too late to help fix a diastasis recti? So this is a great question and one I get a lot. Sarah, I'm 1 year postpartum. I'm 3 years postpartum. I'm 25 years postpartum. Isn't it too late for me to work on a diastasis? Well, the answer to that is no, and let me tell you why and a little bit about what I've seen. All right, so if someone is newly postpartum, it is a little bit easier or can be a little bit easier to elicit change. So because our bodies are just in the state of being very malleable. But the issue with that is very malleable means easy come, easy go. So I tend to see a lot more back and forth with setbacks when somebody is more newly postpartum. They've got a lot more ligament laxity due to breastfeeding, so sometimes that can make it a little bit harder to promote healing. Okay, so there is a give and take here, all right? But you definitely want to start working on it, even if you're breastfeeding, because you can see improvements, and that is a beautiful thing to go ahead and start you down that track of getting it better. Now, let's talk late postpartum. So 25 years postpartum, if you're like, I still have this diastasis recti, I now discovered what it was, and I want to start working on it. Is it too late? And the answer to that is no. I actually found that the women and men that I work with that are maybe a little bit older, obviously men haven't been postpartum, but the women that are really far postpartum, they actually hold better. So sometimes it can be a little bit harder to get those changes to move. Like they've got to do a little bit more learning. Maybe they've got to try a little bit harder. But once we get them over that hump and they actually start eliciting some of that change in their body, then it holds. And so I find they're not quite as malleable, but that can be a good thing in the long run, all right, for things holding once we've changed patterns. Okay, so there's pluses and minuses to working on it early postpartum and pluses and minuses to working on it later postpartum. But the bottom line is it's not too late and it's not too early as long as you're past a few weeks postpartum to work on your diastasis recti. Now, what do I mean by it's not too early? And then I added that caveat with a couple weeks. Well, I think if you start working on diastasis recti too early, it can actually be bad for pressure down on your pelvic floor. So the women that I see that often end up with prolapse very early on, they're like, oh, I was really working hard on getting my diastasis closed and I was creating lots of force, and then I, really doing a good job on doing all those exercises, and then I ended up with prolapse. Okay, so sometimes when we're trying to create pressure in our midline, it goes down, and that can be a bad thing for a healing pelvic floor postpartum. So I usually ask women to wait 3 to 6 weeks to make sure we've got a good pelvic floor breathing foundation down before we really start working on that diastasis. So I think it's really important to get the pelvic floor component on board first to make sure they understand bearing down and breathing and what all that kind of feels like and looks like, so that then when we start working on their diastasis, we're not 2 steps back to make 1 step forward. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you were newly postpartum, that is something that we want to work on. And it's never too late to see changes. So even if you're a year postpartum, you're gonna see change as you move forward, and you're gonna see change even if you are years down the road.